JD Fakarja is Misha Shannog McCaul is Misha As and Hure in Yedin, Octami Mahoney in Tennessee, is Misha Last Uachtaran and Common Gaelic Knoxville. So what does that mean? Hello everybody, I'm John McCaul. I am originally from Newry in Ireland, but I live in East Tennessee. I am the Vice President of the Knoxville Irish Society. I'm very glad, as are all our members and board members of the Knoxville Irish Society are, to be involved in the virtual Knox Shamrock Fest of 2021. We appreciate the East Tennessee Kidney Foundation for inviting us, and we are grateful to them for all the work that they do in our East Tennessee community. It's a beautiful day today, so I thought I would record this video outside with the beautiful magnolia tree in the background here. And I hope you enjoy the bird song in the background too. So for this video, I want to speak to you about St. Patrick and the legend of St. Patrick. If things were different, I would, along with my colleagues, be at the Knox Shamrock Fest in Market Square and in downtown Knoxville. We were there. I was there. I remember being there in 2019, and unfortunately, we didn't gather in 2020, and it's not to be this year either. But hopefully, in 2022, we'll be back, and we'll be able to have some Paddy's Day fun together. So, but for today, we just have to make do with the virtual stuff, and I want to let you know a little bit about St. Patrick and the legend, and just remind you about his importance in Ireland and so on. So, who is St. Patrick? So the story of St. Patrick's life is a complicated one. I actually, when I was at Queen's University in Belfast, studied Patrick's life along with a number of other saints during an early Irish history course, and I found out a lot of interesting things about St. Patrick the man. So there's some debate among academics that there were two Patricks, Palladius Patricius and Patricius. There are also at least 4 theories exist that concerning when exactly Patrick might have lived, and we'll talk about these a little bit. So I'm just going to talk about here the commonly accepted narrative among historians about Patrick's life. And this narrative that has been created is heavily influenced by Patrick's Confessio, which is kind of his what academics believe to be his biography, and the Annals of Ulster, which is an ancient document about early Irish history. So sorry, there's my paper blowing upwards. So let's talk about a little bit about St. Patrick the man first of all. So Patrick, or the Latin name Patricius, or the Irish name Podrig, is believed to have been born in Roman Britain, modern day Wales, in the 5th century of the Common Era. So about 500 years or so after the birth of Jesus Christ, to an economically well-off family. Patrick's Roman name is believed to be Mewin Succat. So when he was 16, Patrick was abducted by invaders from Ireland and enslaved for 6 years. During this time, he herded sheep on Mount Slemish in the northeast of Ireland, which is located in the modern-day county of County Antrim. And he was treated harshly by his master. For example, he is alleged to have been forced to eat pig swill while looking after the sheep on Mount Slemish. In Patrick's Confessio, he records that while looking after flocks, his love and fear of God grew. During the 6th year of his captivity, one night Patrick heard a voice, and that encouraged him to flee on a ship and to make himself ready and get to his homeland. So Patrick, he heard this voice and was the voice of God, and was encouraged to return to his homeland and escape from his master, and he made it back to Britain. However, despite promising his parents that he would never return to Ireland again, Patrick was persuaded by a vision in which he heard the voice of the Irish begging him to walk amongst them again. Details regarding Patrick's life between his flight from Ireland and his return as a missionary bishop are omitted from the Confessio, from his biography. Nevertheless, scholars assert that this time was spent studying Christianity, in addition to securing his ordination and the Church's approval for his intended mission to return to Ireland and convert the pagans there to Christianity. Patrick's Irish mission was not the inaugural one, however. He had been preceded in leading a mission to Ireland by Palladius, who was dispatched by Pope Celestine in 431 of the Common Era to be the first bishop to the Irish believers in Christ. However, Palladius was soon banished to North Britain, which is modern-day Scotland, by the King of Leinster, while Patrick succeeded him as the missionary to the Irish, aiming to convert the pagans. For Patrick, both travelling and preaching in Ireland were dangerous. He paid local judges and kings in order to travel the land and to secure his protection. However, this did not guarantee him safe passage at all, but although the intention was that by paying these people it would secure his safe passage. Patrick refused financial gifts from the wealthy elite for his ministry, and instead his mission was partly funded by finances raised from selling his property in Britain. There was also much hostility to Patrick from the local Druids he encountered. Miracu's Life of Patrick, which was written in the late 500s, contains this prophecy. Across the sea will come Ad's head, crazed in the head, his cloak with hole for the head, his stick bent in the head. He will chant impieties from a table in front of his house. All his people will answer, so be it, so be it. So the pagans were mocking Patrick and mocking Christianity as well in this approach. However, Patrick garnered much success as a missionary. For example, in the Confessio it is noted that he baptized thousands of people, ordained priests, and made nuns and monks out of the sons and daughters of local chieftains. So he got them into the sort of helped build up the church through the sons and daughters of the local chieftains. There is much debate among scholars about when Patrick died. Some annal entries place his death date in the 460s, while others record it occurring in the 490s. He may have died at or close to Saul, and is claimed to be buried in the grounds of Down Cathedral, which is a Church of Ireland in Downpatrick, County Down. By Church of Ireland there I mean an Episcopal church. It's called Church of Ireland in Ireland. It's part of the Anglican Communion. And if you go there, you can see the reported tomb of St. Patrick as well. So the legacy of Patrick has endured long after his death, partly because Patrick was the focus of Armagh's claim to the primacy of all Ireland in the 600s. So there was a sort of a political element to this, into raising Patrick as the Archbishop of Ireland and the first Archbishop of Ireland. Armagh's claim as the see of the Christian Church in Ireland hinged on arguing that its bishops were direct linear successors of the see that Patrick had established. Armagh's proposition appears to be backed by the hagiographical works of Miracu and Chirachan from the 500s that record Patrick's many ecclesiastical achievements, such as the establishment of churches. Now, Armagh were rivalled for the primacy of all Ireland for the Christian Church in Ireland by Kildare, who raised St. Bridget as their saint, and challenged Armagh's claim. But Armagh's claim was that St. Patrick was the first bishop of Ireland, and therefore they were entitled to the Archdiocese of Ireland. That they were entitled to be the main church, the main Christian church in Ireland. And in the hagiography concerning, now when I say hagiography, It's a word that you mightn't have heard of outside of academic circles, but it basically means the study of the lives of saints, the sort of the history of saints. So in the hagiography concerning Patrick, Zimmer posits that the second Patrick, or Patricius, never lived. The second Patrick is omitted by Prosper of Aquitaine and St Beda in their works. So Prosper of Aquitaine has said that it was Palladius Patricius who went to Ireland on behalf of Pope Celestine to preach and convert the pagans. And so instead, according to Zimmer, the Armagh propagandists, those that were trying to sort of make the claim that Armagh was deserving and was in fact the true place of the Christian Church in Ireland, they hitchhiked Palladius Patricius for Patrick to strengthen Armagh's claim as the High Church of Ireland. For both Zimmer and O'Rahilly, Palladius Patricius died in 461 of the Common Era and was the Confessio's author. Unlike Zimmer, however, O'Rahilly argues that both Palladius Patricius and Patricius existed. So O'Rahilly believes that both of these people existed, whereas for Zimmer it was just Palladius Patricius. Although we call Patrick a saint and celebrate his feast day every year on March 17th, March 17th is meant to be his alleged death date, Patrick was never actually canonised. In the early Western Church, canonizations were undertaken regionally. So at that time, this is in the 7th century, 8th century, and so on, after the death of people considered to be very holy, the local church affirmed that they could be liturgically celebrated as saints rather than be formally canonized by the pontiff of the day. So despite never being formally canonized, Patrick is venerated in Catholicism, Anglicanism, Lutheranism, and the Eastern Orthodox Church. So he's celebrated in a number of these churches. Through the ages, legendary tales about Patrick's life have sprung up and helped to romanticize his place in Irish folklore as well as in Christianity. The most well-known tale, which I'm sure a lot of you know of, it concerns Patrick using the shamrock, which is a 3-leaf sprig to teach the Holy Trinity to the pagans. This parable dates from at least 1726. For the pagans, there was an important number, 3 was an important number, as there were several triple deities. So you could argue that this was a clever strategy by Patrick to promote Christianity in Ireland and to explain Christianity to the pagans, because the pagans would have understood triple deities. So Patrick was able to, teach the Trinity to them using this. You've got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, and this would have been a good strategy and a good learning tool. According to Santino, to the pagans, the shamrock possibly represented the regenerative powers of nature and was recast in a Christian context. So, shamrock is a plant that people wear. People get a bunch of shamrocks and wear them on the lapel of their clothes in Ireland, and especially they see them at the end of Mass. People will buy some and put them on their clothes and whatnot, on their suit jacket or their dress or whatever. So this was recast in a Christian context, whereas it would originally may have been more have a pagan origin. Now it was recast in a Christian light. Another famous tale derives from both Gerald of Wales and Jocelyn of Furness. Furness is in England, in north east England, I believe. While Gerald of Wales is more sceptical regarding the idea that Patrick banished all snakes from Ireland, Jocelyn states that the saint chased them into the sea after they attacked Patrick during a 40-day fast he was undertaking on top of a hill. Of course, 40-day fast, that is also a link you could argue between the length of time of Lent and the amount of time that Christ was out in the desert being tempted by Satan. So although this sounds like a fun tale, There is no scientific evidence that snakes inhabited Ireland after the most recent ice age that occurred between 115,000 and 11,700 years ago. So, although that makes for a great joke, as they say, what did St Patrick say as he was driving the snakes out of Ireland? Are you all right in the back there, fellas? So it's a bit of a bad joke, but um, so it's a nice tale, but not true. um, a less well known tale with this is less well known outside Irish medieval literary circles, I should say. This comes from the 12th century text McCaul na Shannoch, which translates as Dialogue of the Ancients of Ireland. According to this story, Patrick meets two former members of Finn McCool's na Fianna, Calcha McRonine and Oshin. Oshin is Finn's son. Not too sure about Calcha McRonine, but the na Fianna are the legendary band of warriors of Ireland, and Finn McCool. So there's two Finn McCools in Irish legendary tales: Finn McCool the Giant and Finn McCool the leader of na Fianna. So, despite being characters from Ireland's ancient past, the story in A Column na Shannoch suggests that they survived until Patrick's time, and then during the encounter, Patrick attempts to convert them to Christianity while the warriors defend pagan custom and beliefs. So they're believed to have engaged in a battle about between the pros and cons of Christianity and the pros and cons of paganism. And let me just finish by telling you a little bit about St. Patrick's Day, okay? So how did that evolve? So March 17th, Patrick's death date, according to the Annals of Ulster, is celebrated as his feast day partly due to the campaign of Luke Wadding, a 17th century Franciscan scholar who served on the Reform Commission of the Breviary. Now, the Breviary is sort of like a organization that looked at restructuring the liturgical calendar and so on. So Wadding was a Catholic, and he was successful in getting St. Patrick's Day placed on the church's liturgical calendar. However, unofficially, St. Patrick's Day may have been celebrated in Ireland as early as the 9th or 10th centuries, so maybe about 500 years after it is regarded that Patrick lived. St. Patrick's Day, sorry for shaking my screen there, St. Patrick's Day becomes an official public and bank holiday in Ireland. Became an official public and bank holiday in Ireland in 1903, after the Bank Holiday Ireland Act received royal assent. This was also the year of the first St. Patrick's Day parade. Where do you think it was held? No, it wasn't Dublin, and no, it wasn't Knoxville. It was held in Waterford City, in the province of Munster, in the south of Ireland. The first state-sponsored St. Patrick's Day parade did not occur until 1931 in Dublin, so that's the first state-sponsored one. From 1916 onwards, which was the year of the Easter Rising, the sort of the Irish equivalent of the Boston Tea Party, the rebellion against British rule. This was a rebellion against British rule in Ireland, and occurred on Easter Monday, 1916. So from that time onwards, St. Patrick's Day being characterised by Irish Republican marches and political rallies, and the Irish Free State government in the 1920s opposed this. Meanwhile, in the northeast of Ireland, in present-day Northern Ireland, between 1922 and 1972, the Unionist government did not observe Northern Ireland, did not observe St. Patrick's Day in Northern Ireland, even though it was a public holiday in the UK and in the island of Ireland itself. This was due to Northern Ireland being divided along sectarian lines concerning culture, identity, politics, and religion. However, fast forward a number of years, since the Good Friday Belfast Agreement in 1998, St. Patrick's Day has gradually become a day of cross-community celebration, although some still choose to rather observe July 12th, which is Orange Men's Day, as a public holiday instead. So there you go. There is a little bit of information about there for you about St. Patrick, about the man, the legend, and the feast day, and I just wanted to share that all with you. Okay, so just to let you know, coming up in the next, we're going to be doing a couple of more videos in Knoxville Irish Society. One of them is will be presented by Dougal Jones, who will be introducing to you a little bit about the Irish language and some basic phrases and so on the St. Patrick's Day. We do also hope to be uploading a video on Irish arts and crafts as well too for you. So, but that's basically my little bit on St. Patrick today. So I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you tuning in. Please feel free to comment in the comment section below our video. And yeah, and please, if you want to know more about the Knoxville Irish Society, you're welcome to go to our website, www.knoxvilleirish.com. We're also on Facebook. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. We're also on Twitter and Instagram as well. So please follow us and subscribe. We've also got a new YouTube channel where we hope to be uploading this video too as well. So I'm very glad to have had the opportunity to speak to you all today. I want to say to you, La Elapodrig Sana Dave. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. Okay? Thank you very much. Agus slán agus bant.